ESBR Boxing. We're about myself and Paul Kelly. We are here in preview mode. But before we divulge which fight we're going to be previewing today, I'd like to say like and subscribe to this channel because obviously we've got all your boxing needs covered under one roof. Like, subscribe, obviously let us know in the comments, what you think to the sort of content as well and try and engage with that. But before we get into it, we are now going to get into it. And that is a super fight that we're talking about, heavyweight division here. Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois, obviously taking place 21st of September, Wembley Stadium, no less. Return of AJ to Wembley to UK shores. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. I know my man over here, Paul Kelly, is also looking forward to it. Paul, nothing really needs to be said as of Anthony Joshua, a man who's known to boxing fans and indeed outside of boxing circles, the world around. Daniel Dubois is also obviously a guy who's become sort of increasingly prominent, I suppose, over the last few years as well. So we didn't say too much about his record. So what we'd like to do, we'd like to get stuck right into it. And the question I'm going to ask you, Paul, first and foremost is, without wishing to give your prediction away, let's just exist for a second in a world where AJ has won and AJ is, coming through here. Do you think AJ gets to this fight, possibly fights Fury and USYK? If he gets into those fights next, do you think he'll prevail, Paul?
Yeah, thanks for that eloquent introduction, mate. I'm really looking forward to this fight. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, as you said,
Oh,
we're living in a world here where we're gonna forget the fight for a second, and yeah, for argument's sake, he does win, AJ. But I think that realistically, they're the only fights. If you're Joshua, if you're Hearn, if you're Turkey Al Sheikh, His Excellency, whatever you want to call him, you've obviously got the Fury Usyk supposed rematch, 21st of December, I believe, or something along those lines. It's just before Christmas anyway. If it happens, I mean, obviously, if Fury wins, then there'll probably be a trilogy, so that would probably put it on hold. But let's say again, a lot of if buts and maybes here. Let's say Usyk was to win again. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the trilogy. A lot of people would say it doesn't make sense, and I completely get that, and I'm not going to disagree with you. But with my AJ tinted glasses on, with the way he's been looking recently, under the tutelage of Ben Davison, he looks like kind of brought him back a new lease of life. Let's say I don't I think that that could happen. I think Usyk said he would even be up for it. I'm pretty sure. And what I'm going to say next, mate, don't you? If
there
that
we
fight
go,
was to
baby.
happen, you know where I'm backing, don't you? You know where I'm backing. I think if that fight was to happen on the line, it'll be probably another year or so away, even about 9, 10 months. I think Usyk's going to be 40. Joshua, yeah, he's going to be 35 or whatever, but still in his prime, you would say. Usyk maybe slowing down. Tough fights potentially with Fury there as well. So yeah, I think it could happen. It is realistic. Fury one's also realistic. I think even if Fury gets beat by Usyk, that fight's always going to be there. I think, to be honest, just to kind of see who the best British heavyweight of this era really is, because while might be the next era, he could kind of cross into two. But at the minute, let's be honest, it's just between Joshua and Fury. I think that fight was always there. It'll probably always sell out Wembley Stadium or wherever it goes. Massive, massive fight. And yeah, I've said since day dot, I believe that stylistically AJ has the tools to beat Fury, and I'm not changing my mind.
Paul, thank you very much for that. Very eloquent breakdown of how you see the thing playing out. I think, to be honest with you, I do agree with you in some respects, not all the respects, but some respects, and we're going to them now. I think were Joshua to fight Usyk again, like you say, if Fury comes through that fight, beats him, has a trilogy, obviously Usyk's getting older then. I think, to be honest with you, there's a very good chance, very, very good chance that Joshua could actually beat him in that fight if he's sort of pushing 40, beyond 40. I think he was closer last time round. And obviously, it was a renewed sort of confidence, like you say, under Ben Davison. So I actually I'd make that a very, very close fight, to be honest. I wouldn't back against Joshua in that fight either. I'd probably have him slight favourite, to be honest, if Usyk sort of push 40 plus. The Fury one for me is a tough one. I've always been like, I've always the opposite view on this. I've always thought Fury would have enough to beat Joshua, and I still feel like this is a big fight for Joshua. I still feel like he's on the comeback psychologically, but I sort of like he needs a big win, to be honest with you, to sort of like a big win against a sort of boxer. Obviously, we know that Ngannou victory, but I think we need a big sort of win, a marquee win against some sort of ranked high champion. Obviously, like Dubois is here to really say that he is sort of back. So I at the moment. But there's still question marks, obviously, about Fury as well. Like Fury, obviously, a long time out. Obviously, he got rattled, obviously, didn't he, by Usyk? Not necessarily a massive puncher either. So if Joshua lands on him, would you anticipate him going? Possibly. So I would urge slightly, I would lean slightly towards Fury personally, but I think it's a close fight. To be honest with you, I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. I think I agree with you as well wholeheartedly in the fact that those are the only real fights you want to see AJ in really post this. You know, I want to sort of go straight into one of them, really. I mean, no, there might be tied ups. There might be one more sort of keep him active, but I really want to see the Fury one more so than the USYK one, just obviously because we've seen that twice already. Paul, let's focus a bit on. I know it's going to gore you to hear me say this, but let's focus on the champion here, Paul. Daniel Dubois. Obviously, we're talking a lot about AJ, and I suppose Daniel Dubois is a guy who has fought some incredible opposition. Which obviously, the win over Hrgovic, very, very good win. Win over Miller, also a very, very good win. I think people sort of saying the size that Miller has as well. That he may obviously prove a threat and obviously carries power as well. There's a loss to USYK. Obviously, no one's criticising him over that. But I think, where do you kind of see Daniel Dubois here? Obviously, he is a champion, but do you see him let's talk post AJ, possibly post Fury, post obviously USYK, who's obviously much older as well. Do you see Daniel Dubois being the sort of future of the heavyweight division, or do you think there are other names that can possibly threaten that title? How do you see it, Paul?
He's definitely one of the crop that you would throw in there into the mix. I think you've got. I know he's a lot younger, only 18, 19, but Moses Itaima looks like he's the real deal. He could go on to be a really, really formidable force at heavyweight. He's obviously 7 years younger, 8 years younger than Dubois. So, if you're talking about the future, it could even be him. And he seems to be starting to make those step ups as well. So it mightn't even be too long until he is near the upper echelons of the heavyweight division. You've got your man Jalilov, unless he just goes back to the Olympics again and all that carry on. I find that a bit frustrating personally, but there's a lot of hype around him. He seems like he has the tools to be up there. A lot of people were saying Jared Anderson, but he got dismantled obviously by Martin Bakole. Bakole, I looked a bit older, so I'm not going to include Bakole maybe in the future. I think he's probably more this current crop. Joseph Parker's not old; he'd probably still be about. But yeah, Jared Anderson can come again after the Bakole fight. I think it's early enough on in his career. He's still young enough that it's a learning fight. He can just come again, rebuild, and get back to the top of where people thought he was going to go. And yeah, I think he could probably make it up there. So right now, probably a few names I've forgotten, but the likes of, from a British standpoint, you've got Dubois, obviously, Moses Itaima really as well. Not going to include Fraser Clark or Fabio Wardley. I don't think Fraser Clark, age wise, is going to be able to go on for too much longer when Dubois still about. And Fabio Wardley, I just don't think has the quality. Perhaps you can mix it at the very top level. Jalilov I'll throw in there, and yeah, Jared Anderson if he comes again. They're kind of the names at the top of my head right at the minute, mate. What about you?
Yeah, it's weird because I get the kind of as a sort of sense check that I feel like Dubois, like you say, has to be part of that crop, but I don't necessarily feel that he could be a dominant force. I don't see him as a sort of undisputed heavyweight champion, to be honest with you. I see him as more of a world champion, yes. Maybe you can pick up a second belt sort of thing, but I don't see him dominating the division. I actually was thinking, again, I know what you're saying about Bakole. I mean, Bakole's age to some is a mystery. I think he's down as obviously being 31. For me, he could probably ascend over the next sort of couple of years, although I agree, not necessarily one for the future as such. Jalilov's the one I suppose that sticks out, but again, you don't necessarily know what he's going to do. So for me, I feel like there's the possibility that there's a bit of a vacuum maybe that Dubois can fill, but equally I feel like him versus Anderson would be a good fight, actually. It'd be a good fight for me, actually, to see kind of where Anderson is post that loss as well, and kind of see what he can do as well. But I think definitely part of the crop, definitely sort of world champion, sort of top 5 material. Whether he'll go on to dominate it for me is still yet to be decided. But Paul, let's go to predictions. Let's not waste any more time here. Let's get stuck right into this, Paul. AJ versus Daniel Dubois, IBF title on the line. Wembley Stadium, Paul. Who wins? Does it go 12 rounds? Who wins and why, Paul? Talk to me.
I'm not going to keep you very long, mate. Don't even have to justify myself. Anthony Joshua wins this fight, and it's not going past 6 rounds. Mark my words.
You heard it here first. That is half the press. Not going 6 rounds. To be honest with you, I actually agree with Paul. I think not on the possibly the timing, but I do think Joshua wins this. I do think it's going to be a stoppage. I do think it's going to come a bit later than Paul suggests. I can see somewhere between sort of 8 to 10, but I see it being quite cagey early. I think AJ. It'd be very interesting what happens with AJ here. Does he sort of go a bit cagey? We've seen, to be fair to him, we've seen his ability to box over 12 rounds. We've seen his ability to actually, people say it's gun shy, but on occasions against the Ruiz rematch, USYK as well, we've seen him actually box. To be fair, I think he deserves a bit more credit sometimes than he gets on that respect. So does he start off a bit slow in that respect, kind of respect Daniel's power and then step it on him and stop him? Is kind of how I see it happening, to be perfectly honest with you. But obviously there's a capacity. He could get caught, maybe he could get caught, but I'm not going to sit here and back Daniel Dubois, to be honest with you. I think AJ victory. I think we're looking at the new Paul, to be honest with you. I think you and I are looking at the new here 3 times.
3 times.
But Paul, thank you very much for joining me. Guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Let us know in the comments who you pick for this fight. Also, how you see AJ getting on a heavyweight against the likes of Fury and USYK in future fights. Thank you very much for your time. Like I said, like and subscribe. Paul, as always, thank you for joining me. Guys, as always, thank you.